Hello and welcome to Pitt Street Research. My name is Mark Kennis. I'm one of the co-founders, and with me is Coby Hanoch, CEO of WBT Nano. Hi Coby, how are you?
Hi Mark, good.
Excellent. So we've been doing interviews for a long time now, but just for people that might not know WBT all that well, can you just briefly talk about the areas where your technology's got application? Just talk about what the the purposes of the technology in different application areas, so that they have a sense of how to place the technology.
So yeah, I think we have the ReRAM technology, or non-volatile memory technology, is used by practically every digital unit in the world. You know, it's cameras, it's cell phones, it's autonomous vehicles, etc. Anything digital needs non-volatile memory. And in our case, we look at the market as two main segments. There's the embedded market, where, you know, because everything has been shrinking so much, you can put a full system on a chip, including a memory module inside that system. So you embed that memory module inside that system. That's, you know, our big focus right now. That's the first market we're looking at. And then there's also the market of chips that all they have on them is memory. So we call it a standalone or a discrete component, which has only memory on it. And then, you know, later on, my dream is when we'll get to neuromorphic computing, which is basically emulating the human brain on a ReRAM. You know, that's further down the road, but it's, you know, I can't wait to get there.
Well, you have to start with a dream, right, to get to the end. It all starts with a vision and a dream. So, all right. So you raised some capital recently. Share price, of course, has gone on a huge run. So yeah, it was a good moment, I guess, to take some more money to basically, you know, expedite a couple of things. But can you talk a little bit about the use of funds specifically for, especially for these two projects that you're working on right now?
Yeah. So I guess the good news, the great news for me is, you know, we plan to have the technology ready to be transferred to a production fab by the end of the year, and we are ready. And the technology is ready right now. We did the stabilization round and so on, and now we're actively talking to many fabs around the world, US, Korea, Taiwan, China, etc. So the first phase right now, and the big focus is moving that technology to a production fab. You know, we need to choose the fab. We need to work with that fab to decide which technology node we want to work on, if it's 65 nanometer or 130 or 40 or whatever. We need to work with the fab to adapt that technology, the technology to that specific node, and you know, whatever is needed to make it work in the eyes of the fab. You know, we're happy with the technology, but there's a lot of work to be done so that the fab would feel comfortable with it, putting it into the product line. And then there's the process of qualification. So the work is actually starting now. It's there's a lot of work in getting into these fabs. And in previous times when we talk, I mentioned just how delicate a fab is, how everything is so complex and sensitive. And so now we're getting into there. Having additional funds will enable us to try to speed up that process, will enable us to look at maybe, you know, more than one fab or more than one technology node. At the end of the day, we'll want the technology to be transferred to multiple fabs and multiple technology nodes, etc. So there's a lot of work to be done there, and this will really enable us to accelerate that work. We talked about the discrete component or the standalone memory. You know, that is a much larger challenge, much bigger challenge. We need to, we announced that next year we'll be demonstrating a memory bit of our ReRAM with the selector. After that, we'll need to go and continue to grow it into arrays, and actually we need larger arrays, and the demands are more extreme. So there's a lot to do there, and you know, part of the money will be used to accelerate that activity. So that's really the big stuff. You know, we do need to strengthen sales and marketing and stuff. We're talking now to more potential customers, to more potential partners. You know, we hired 2 vice presidents now that I'm very happy with. That's also part of it. so there's a lot of work, and of course, neuromorphic. I mean, it's we'll be looking at if there's anything that we can do to push that forward. That's obviously much longer term and not a big focus right now, but it's still there.
Okay, so you briefly mentioned the two key hires that you did recently. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that helps the company expedite things?
Oh, this is amazing. I was always very proud of the board of directors that we had, but in the management side of things, we really needed some strengthening. And now that we got the funds, I hired two stellar guys. I mean, both of them are people that I know for a very long time, and I've always looked up to them. Ilan Sever is an expert in the memory domain by any standard. People consider him to be one of the leading memory guys, clearly in Israel, I think even worldwide. He spent his career developing memories in big places like Tower or ST Micro. The last 11 years, he was managing the local site of Dolphin Integration, where basically their job was memory modules, developing memory modules and memory technology. Dolphin has a memory compiler, which is the next phase we'll need, to automate the generation of the memory modules. So he's the perfect guy to lead all of the activity on the memory module. And then Iran, I remember I told him 15 years ago that one of these days I'll manage to hire him. He was actually at CEVA. CEVA is the #1 DSP company in the world today, digital signal processing. And he was there from day one. He was also VP Marketing and Business Development, and together with their CEO, he really pushed the company forward to where it is. A few years ago, he left CEVA and he went to Core Photonics. And again, in a similar role, he pushed the company with the CEO and was part of the discussion with Samsung. Samsung eventually acquired them more recently, which is great for us because we could hire him. So with the two of them, and together with Amir and with Ala and Yoav that's working part-time in the company, now we have an amazing management team. I mean, the energies and everything are just, unbelievable.
Right. Well, that sounds very promising. So that's good. So if you look then at commercial partnerships and basically the commercialization, can you update us on where you stand right now and what the timelines are, and also potentially talk a little bit about the transfer of the technology into the fab?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we're now in the process of talking to many fabs, and I'm so glad I have Eran now with me to kind of help me manage all of this activity of talking to fabs, talking to different partners. There are all kinds of partners that we're talking to, and with some of the fabs, we are now deep in discussion already, and it's very exciting time. So I mentioned the first phase is to choose which fab to work with, to reach an agreement with them, and to start the technology transfer. We're talking about, licensing in different forms already. So it's, the timeline that we set was to reach a commercial agreement by the middle of next year. I'm doing everything I can, and I'm very focused on that milestone, despite COVID, despite the challenges that it's, presenting, and quite a few challenges. We're very focused on that. We want to reach an agreement. Now, as I mentioned, the work with the fab is not something that you just transfer the technology and tomorrow it's working. There's a lot of work to do with the fab. The whole process of transferring the technology, getting it to the point the fab is comfortable with it, and then doing qualification and everything. It's a long process. It can take easily, even a year or more. So it's something that we're working on, but the commercial side of things goes in parallel. So it's not that we have to wait and we can't do anything until it's done. Things are going in parallel, and we'll be pushing it as fast as we can.
Right. Okay, that's good. And so Australia has been in hot water now with China for a little while, but of course the trade war, between the US and China, that's been raging for a little while as well. Does that present opportunities or blockades really for WeBit? Is there any benefit for that in terms of getting your technology into China potentially, or doesn't it help anyone?
So, the situation with China is obviously something that any company should be looking at closely. We're changing now presidents in the US, and we'll see how that impacts things. I believe that there won't be a major change. I just think that it's strategically for the US, what they're doing with China. But having said that, American companies are still working in China. Intel, Qualcomm, Apple, whatever, they're working in China. Business is still going on. China is still the biggest consumer of semiconductors. So we're continuing the work in China. We think that we have great opportunities there. We're monitoring the situation. Obviously we're now, any patent that we have, we take and register also in China, and, we're taking the precautions needed, but I think it's still a very good opportunity for us, and we're very focused on leveraging it.
All right. Well, it's good to know. I mean, there's plenty of, in terms of market size, it's huge, obviously. Lastly, Coby, on COVID. So in Australia, COVID is almost non-existent now. So I think we're living in this bubble in Australia with no cases basically, other than people coming from overseas that go into quarantine. So I think we in Australia don't really understand what's going on in the rest of the world, because we're not allowed to travel, obviously. But if we look at the news, US, Europe, South America, and as you said earlier when we spoke, Israel is not in good shape. Mm-hmm. The situation right now in the world with when it comes to COVID, how does it impact WeBit still at this moment?
Well, COVID is around, and every day you hear about a lockdown in a different country and in a different place. And I think the key element is the travel restrictions. The fact that we can't go to actually visit the fabs face to face. When you're doing a technology transfer, you need to have an engineer take a wafer and go to the fab, sit with the engineers there, work together. That's something that you can't do through Zoom. So it's kind of a challenge. We're working on that, and we're finding ways to bypass that. Sometimes you might need to just send the engineer, and he'll need to be in quarantine for 2 weeks and only then go to the customer. Sometimes if it's a longer term, you need to start thinking about what you do with the family. You can't take a guy and disconnect him from the family for so long. So there are challenges. We're working on them. Obviously for me, not being able to go and meet people face to face. Zoom is great, but up to a certain point, at a certain point, you need that personal connection, small talk when you're in the lobby or next to the coffee machine, or going out to a dinner or something. So it's a challenge for us. We're dealing with it at this point. I think we're dealing with it well. I hope that we won't see impacts on our schedule, but we'll have to see it. It's a day-by-day thing, and we keep seeing surprises. So we'll do our best.
Right. Okay. Well, there's a lot going on, and it sounds like 2021 might be a WeBit year then, in terms of initial steps on the commercialization front, and getting the ball rolling on the potentially on the revenue side. So there's a lot to look forward to. So thank you very much, Coby, for joining us today.
No, thank you. It's been great, and I think 2021 is going to be a very exciting year for us. I'm really looking forward to it.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Coby.